Hello everyone, hope you're all having a wonderful day, and today guys we're going to be going over my new Ground Shaker Barbarian build for Season 2. And I am confident that this build is 100% ready for Abattoir of Zia, the new endgame seasonal content that will be literally releasing today / tomorrow. And we're doing this without shouts, no worries. So what makes this build so good? Well, we have amazing damage obviously because we're using Hammer of the Ancients, and Hammer of the Ancients is insanely strong in Season 2 because of all the changes that they did do to Overpower. So we have no problem with one-shotting bosses as well. I'm pretty sure as long as you use Hammer of the Ancients, you're probably going to one-shot bosses. So yes, we have amazing damage, obviously, which again is going to cut down a lot on farming times. We actually have some pretty decent CC with this build, which is going to help us get some damage bonuses and also stop us from just taking damage. We do actually have pretty respectable movement, not like the Rogue, but we are pretty quick for a Barbarian. We have really decent survivability with Fortify and damage reduction on our gear and in our Paragon board. Not the best survivability, but it is still up there. And we also have fantastic Fury generation with our skills and also some aspects. So you don't really need to worry about using your basic skill really at all. We have plenty of skills and aspects to refill our Fury to max and beyond. And overall, this build is really fun. Like, I would rather use anything over shouts any day. I know shouts are very strong, but they're also very boring. So if you're overseeing shouting Karen Barb build, then hopefully this build will provide what you're looking for. Now moving straight over to the skills guys. Now for our basic, we are using Lunging Strike. Lunging Strike is really good to help us stay mobile. I think it's a really good basic skill for Barbarian. Now for our core, it's no surprise that we are using Hammer of the Ancients. Hammer of the Ancients is insanely strong in Season 2, so if you can't beat them, you might as well join them. For our defenses, we are running Ground Stomp. Ground Stomp is going to give us some good CC, and we are also running Iron Skin. Iron Skin is going to be a very nice defensive to use when things are getting a little heated. And then for the brawling skills, we are running Kick. Kick is really good, again, to also apply CC. And then for the next brawling skill, we do have Leap. Now, Leap is arguably the bread and butter of this build, and I'll get into that when we get into the skills and the gear. Now, moving on over to the skill tree, guys. As always, Max Roll Build Planner will be in the comment section below. I'll pin it so you guys can find it easier. Now, I say this in all my builds, but I'm pretty sure you guys know how a Barbarian works. We're like well into Season 2. The game's been out for more than 6 months. I feel like most people probably know how most classes work. So again, that's what the build plan is for. Just go down there, check it out. It's going to save me a hell of a lot of time explaining everything. I will still just quickly scan over everything so you can see what I take. Now again, this is the first time I've put a Barbarian build together. I'm not using shouts, so bear with me if I have fucked up anything or some things that are a little bit out of place. Like, why the hell is he taking that? That he shouldn't be taking that. Just let me know if I have made any mistakes in the comment section below. I'm always eager to learn and make improvements on my build. So of course, Lunging Strikes, we're upgrading this to Combat Lunging Strike. This is going to be whenever we critically strike with Lunging Strikes, we can get Berserking for 1.5 seconds. Straight into the core section, we have Hammer of the Ancients. We're upgrading this to Furious Hammer of the Ancients, which just lets us deal more damage based on how much Fury we have when we used it. Now next, we are taking Ground Stomp, and we're also upgrading this to Tactical Ground Stomp. We also have fantastic Fury generation, even though we have no shouts or anything. Ground Stomp and Leap are going to give us Fury, and we are using Tobolt Wheel, which is also going to give us Fury. So we have 3 sources to get us Fury plus a whole bunch of passive. We can keep our Fury full really easily, and we have a lot of cooldowns to just give us Fury so we can just keep dumping the hammer. So that is why I've gone with Tactical Ground Stomp. Iron Skin, we've upgraded this to Tactical Iron Skin as well. This is just going to give us a barrier. I feel like this is really good defensively. I got three points into Imposing Presence. It's going to give us more maximum health, means more damage when we overpower. We do have Kick. We've upgraded this to Mighty Kick. This is going to be good. This is going to, when we kick enemies, they're just going to collide with each other and then they're going to be knocked down. If these enemies hit the terrain, they will be stunned. So we have 2 methods now of getting CC out with just Kick, which is really good. We have Leap, and we're also upgrading this to Power Leap. This is, I just explained this before, but we're going to be getting 40 Fury whenever Leap damages at least 1 enemy. I have put 3 points into Swiftness, more movement speed, also got Aggressive Resistance, and also got Battle Fervor. I'm not sure how you say that word, but this is going to give us Berserking whenever we use a brawling skill. We're using Kick and Leap, and since we're using Kick and Leap, we have 2 ways that we can actually get Berserking for 3 seconds. I feel like with this, Lunging Strikes, and also an aspect that we're taking, we have no issue keeping berserking up 100% of the time as long as there's enemies in the way and we're damaging them. Got nothing in the weapon mastery section except for the pit fighter passive, very strong. Got 1 point in thick skin just so we can get 3 points in the counter offensive. This is another good damage multiplier. Down into the ultimate section, we are taking tempered fury, 1 point here, and just so we can get to invigorating fury. This is just going to give us health per 100 fury spent. And then I've also put 3 points into furious impulse, which is whenever we swap weapons, we get 6 fury also. So again, just helping us keep a fury topped at all times. We've got 3 points heavy handed, good damage multiplier, 3 points in the brute force, another fantastic damage multiplier, and then also 3 points into wallop. And no surprise that our key passive is going to be unbridled rage. This is insanely strong with Hammer of the Ancient. The fact that you increase it by 135% times damage, whoo, that's a big increase. That's why you're able to get 200, 300, 400 mil crits, is pretty much because of Unbridled Rage. I think it's no surprise that we're taking Two-Handed Axe Expertise, which is going to give us 15% times increased damage to vulnerable enemies. Now, with Waddy's video talking about how Prey on the Weak isn't working because, you know, at 16% times can't go over the 20% times vulnerable damage, would this be the same? Would it just be better if we ran two-handed maces now because we're going to get that 15% increased critical strike damage to stun and vulnerable enemies while we're berserking? Wouldn't this be better now since we've kind of learned that Prey on the Weak is bugged because that's 16% time? Or is it just Prey of the Weak? I've kind of completely forgot about that. Let me know in the comment section if this does need to be changed. Either way, we are using the Two-Handed Axe Expertise now. I have a feeling that the Two-Handed Mace is going to be better just because of that vulnerability cap. I'm not sure. Okay, moving on over to the gear. Again, guys, I'm not going to sit here and explain how everything works. I'll just touch on the things I think actually do need explaining, because all of these aspects you've probably seen before on multiple different characters and they all do the same thing. First up, on the helmet, we have the Disobedient aspect. This is just going to give us more armor. For my chest, we do have the Bull Cathus aspect. This is going to let Leap create an earthquake, and when we're standing in this earthquake, we gain 25% damage reduction. I feel like when we're standing in the earthquakes, we're very tanky, if not almost invincible, unless there's a poison puddle underneath your earthquake, then, you know, that's a bit of bad luck. But otherwise, this is just really good to just add just a bit of defense to the build. Again, I don't know if I need this, but I am using the earthquakes to give us a damage increase, which I'll touch on in a second. For the gloves, we are running Relentless Berserker. This is just going to give us a chance on lucky hit that when we damage an enemy with a core skill, that we can extend berserking by 2 seconds. This is really good since we only have a couple of ways to get berserking, but it's nice to have that once we do have the berserking, because we're using Hammer of the Ancient so often, that we can just continue that berserking duration because we're using that core skill. For our pants, absolutely no surprise here. Arguably one of the strongest uniques this season and probably moving forward as well is Tybalt's Will. Now, Tybalt's Will, you can have up to a 40% times increased damage when you become unstoppable, and for 4 seconds after. And also when you become unstoppable, we gain 50 of our primary resource. So this is going to be really good to keep replenishing our fury. Same with Leap and Ground Stomp. But because of the passive that we do have on our boots when attacks reduce evades cooldown by 1.2 seconds, because of this, as soon as we hit a big pack of enemies with Hammer of the Ancients, we can immediately evade straight away. So I am using the evade to top our fury up as much as possible. But it is nice if you do want to do more burst damage that you just evade, you leap, you smash some hammers, ground stomp, smash some hammers, and you can leap again, and you're still going to have that 34-40% times increased damage from Tybalt's Will, because it does last for like 8 seconds, especially when you use Metamorphosis. Now for the boots, I do have the Perpetual Stomping aspect. Now this aspect is the bread and butter of the whole entire build, that whenever we damage an enemy with kick or ground stomp, it resets Leap's cooldown. So since we are playing off putting as many earthquakes down and dealing more damage when we're standing in these earthquakes, this is going to make sure that we can always have earthquakes at the ready. If you don't have Leap ready, you ground stomp, which is going to put an earthquake down, and then you can leap, and then you've got 2 earthquakes. You're going to get damage bonus, defensive bonus, and everything's all happy and dandy. And then you can just kick to get leap back, which then you can use for movement, and you get 2 charges of kick. I feel like this just makes the build flow so well, and it just makes the build that much more fun. I've tried using the build without this aspect, and it just feels a little slower compared to how I've got it set up now. Maybe I am missing out on a bit of movement speed or whatever, but I do feel like this is just what works well for me. For the mace, we are running Limitless Rage. Since we have so many ways to get fury, we're always going to be capping out over Fury, which is going to get this damage bonus. I do have the accelerating aspect on my mace. I do have Ancestral Force on the other mace. I do also have the Earthquake aspect on my axe. Now this is kind of what I've been talking about, that when we create earthquakes, when we're standing in these earthquakes, we deal 50% times increased damage. Now, no, we're not going to be always standing in earthquakes all the time, and we're very mobile with this build. But for bossing, I feel like this is the way to go if you don't want to use shouts. We have multiple ways that we can get earthquakes with leap and ground stomp, and because we can get leap off cooldown really easy with ground stomp and kick, we just always have earthquakes, or I feel like we can have this 50% times increased damage pretty frequently. Like, you can just stand there and just use the hammer. You don't have to really move. Earthquake dock damage isn't really that strong. I know it's like 10k, but it's not really anything to talk about, even with the new glyph on. But the main thing we're using it for is that 50% times increased damage. For the ring, I do have the Earth Strikers aspect here. That's the main reason why I'm using accelerating, to just speed up attack so we can keep switching weapons. For the other ring, I do have Ring of Red Fury. This is the new unique class specific ring, got added in a couple of weeks ago. This one is insanely strong for Barbarian compared to like the Rogues one that I talked about. So when we spend 100 Fury within 3 seconds, our next Hammer of the Ancient, Upheaval, or Death Blow is guaranteed to critically strike, and it does 30% times more critical strike bonus. This is such a filthy ring for Barbarians, man. And then the other bit of gear that's just a little cherry on top is the BLT. I love that it's abbreviated to BLT. The Banished Lord's Talisman, and this I think needs no introduction. This is going to let you overpower, and now your overpowers deal 120% more critical strike damage. This linking up with this, kaboom. Literally kaboom. But also this just lets your overpowers do 120% more times more damage when you critically strike, which is kind of nuts since Barbarian has very good critical strike. I just want to quickly touch on my stats. I'm just going to scroll through them so you guys can actually have a look. I'm obviously capping out a lot on strength. Strength is just going to increase all our skill damage by 131%. I've got all the resistances maxed out. I do have 2,199% overpower damage. I really feel like I'm putting all my eggs in one basket here, but you kind of need to if you do want to do those massive overpowered crits and just one-shot bosses. And then the other thing to note, in case you guys don't know, the way to set up your weapons now in Season 2 is to go for all stats, strength. You want damage while berserking because that gives you a multiplicative damage bonus. I would like overpower in here. I didn't get it, unfortunately. You can see that these ones are rolling a little bit better. I've gone for, you know, all stat, strength, overpower, damage while berserking, all stat, overpower, damage while berserking, and the same on my axe as well. The reason why I've gone axe is because it gives you damage to healthy enemies. It's just going to give you a bigger first hit on the target. You don't need an axe, you can use a sword. Moving on over to the Vampiric Powers, I'm just going to quickly whiz through these because we all know what these do. I'm taking Undying, I'm taking Sanguine Brace. This is absolutely a must for this build because we have no way to get Fortify. You can put some aspects on, but we're not doing that. Sanguine Brace does that for us, and this is going to give us critical strike chance, like 8%. Which is just insane. Taking Ravenous, more attack speed. We got Blood Boil, so it gives us a chance to overpower. And then we got Metamorphosis, which is our unstoppable charge. All right, guys, last but not least, moving on over to the Paragon Board. Now, this really isn't my Paragon Board. I've kind of made a few slight adjustments to someone else's Paragon Board over on Mobalytics. Gonna give a shout out to Dalcora, I think his name is. He's the one that actually did the Paragon Board over on Mobalytics for just the Hammer of the Ancient Gigaclap. Thought I'd just give a shout out because I didn't actually put this Paragon Board together myself, so credit where credit is due. The build planner will obviously be in the comment section below, guys, so just go check that out. I'm not going to explain the whole Paragon Board for you. I am just going to show you the glyphs that I am taking and any of the legendary nodes. Now, first glyph, I know some people don't like this, and you can take this out because we are using Kick, but I am still taking Exploit because it's just so when we hit an enemy the first time, they become vulnerable, so we don't have to, you know, kick and then leap and then hit, just do too many inputs. It's just we just hit the enemy and they're vulnerable for 3 seconds. That is the only reason why we have Exploit. Feel free to take this out if you don't want to use this. You can get a lot more damage out of the build if you do replace this, but we are still taking Exploit. Now, for the first legendary node, we are taking Blood Rage. This is going to increase our damage by 25% of your damage while berserking bonus. So that's why you want to take a lot of damage while berserking affixes on your gear, because it does convert into a nice multiplicative bonus because of Blood Rage. We do have 78% times. This is huge considering how much damage Barbarian is working with. The next glyph, I do have the Dominate glyph. This is just going to give us a massive overpower bonus, which again is multiplicative. And after not overpowering for 30 seconds, your next attack will overpower. This isn't really that great. It is if you want to stand around for 30 seconds and just have a big hit. But the main thing is the 308% overpower damage, which is multiplicative. They definitely didn't tune this down. I think they've forgotten to, and it's definitely going to happen in Season 3. Next legendary node is Decimated. This is going to give us a nice multiplicative bonus to vulnerable enemies, and we're going to get even more damage bonus when we overpower a vulnerable enemy. And the next glyph I'm taking is Ire, which is going to give us more damage while berserking, which converts into Blood Rage. Next glyph I am taking is Crusher. Crusher is going to give us more damage with maces, which is our two-handed bludgeoning weapon, which we need to use for Hammer of the Ancients anyway. And while we're wielding a mace, we deal 30% increase overpowered damage. Massive bonus, massive bonus. Next glyph I am taking the Rumble glyph. I have decided to use the Rumble glyph. I actually think it's kind of strong. The Earthquake skill damage isn't really that great. It doesn't really make it that much stronger, but the bonus is pretty good. We deal 10% increased damage to bosses and crowd controlled enemies for each active earthquake. This is going to be more prevalent when you're doing bosses, because like I said, we can drop 2 earthquakes really easily, so we're going to be getting 20% times increased damage. Now this isn't a lot, but it is pretty decent again when you consider how much damage Barbarian's working with. Now we do crowd control enemies, but we're not always going to be crowd controlling enemies. We basically insta-delete them anyway, but it is still nice that we don't have to stand in an earthquake and we're still getting a damage bonus. And then obviously this Paragon board goes right down to the bottom to get Bone Breaker, which is every 12 seconds your next skill is guaranteed to overpower. This is insanely strong. And that is basically it for the build, guys. This isn't like my Abattoir of Zir build, but you definitely can use this Barbarian build in Abattoir of Zir, but I know the Shout builds are just a hell of a lot stronger, but this is a hell of a lot funner. As of today, I did just get the Doombringer. I know I friggin' finally got it. I haven't got the Shako yet, unfortunately. My partner has. Today as well, I couldn't believe the luck that we had. We had 20 Duru runs saved up, and that's the end result. So I do have the Doombringer now. I want to test out Barbarian. Obviously, you get a massive health increase, and obviously I do want to try it with Rogue because we can increase the shadow damage there. Very interested to see how that works. But I did really want to put a Barbarian build together that doesn't use shouts. I know other people have done no shout Barbarian build, but I haven't seen anyone try something like this. If someone has, again, I apologize. I'm absolutely loving this build. It's just really quick. You can clear dungeons very fast, especially when you can always get leap back, and we always pretty much have evade at all time. It's just a really fun build. It synergizes really well together. If there's anything that you think could be changed, let me know in the comment section down below. Hope this build did help you guys out. Appreciate all the love and support as always. And until next time, stay safe. Peace out.